And welcome into the Tuesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar. Intern Grant here with you on this Tuesday morning. Rexrode is out today. He will be back tomorrow here on the program. Hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. Welcome back to the show. We'll take your thoughts throughout the show. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Ian Safar, whose New York Knicks have punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. How we doing this morning?
Good morning, folks. Doing just fine, thank you. Outstanding weekend in general, huh? I mean,
It was good.
The sports was good. Got a little bit, maybe too much rain. Could have used a little bit of a dry spell in there, but that's okay. We needed the rain. It's good for the garden. Got our first couple of good batches of raspberries for the season.
There we go.
For the rain. Flowers are starting to perk back up. You know, kids were home. It was busy. In and out, but it was fun.
I'm in desperate need to cut grass. Have to.
I did the back, luckily, a little bit before it rained this past week. Oh, it was probably later in the week, maybe Thursday.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I did okay. The front could use a little bit of help. Probably need to get the weed eater out a little bit, which I almost should have done yesterday. We had a little bit of a break there. Didn't do that, so now we'll see how this week goes.
Yep.
The
mower's
going to need some help.
I was driving down the driveway this morning, and I was just like, good grief, man. Got to get out here and cut the grass.
Well, the problem with the rain now is that now the grass gets thick.
I know.
It was okay. It was a little long last week, but not too, bushy because of the lack of rain.
Yeah.
But now we get a double whammy.
We're in big trouble.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have a whole lot of start, unclog, stop, unclog, start again. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully everybody else kind of got on top of that this week.
How are you feeling about your New York Knicks?
I mean,
sweeping the Cleveland Cavs and are back in the NBA Finals.
They're still looking good, huh?
They are.
They are.
I mean, Cleveland totally quit yesterday, I thought, but
it right off the bat. I mean, it was over. And credit to Paul Kuharski, who chastised us for taking the Cavs and weekend winners, saying the Cavs were done and that they were dogs.
Yeah.
And sure enough,
it played out that way.
After that first game, I guess that was it, huh? They gave up the lead. The Cavs did in that first game. Knicks came back.
Yeah.
And from then on, it was just that was that. I was surprised they didn't even. I thought we all picked them to win game 3.
Yeah.
That obviously did not happen. So the Knicks, crazy. They haven't lost a game since April something.
I mean,
it's been 32 days since they've lost a game. The highest margin of victory for any NBA team during this win streak.
Yeah.
Regular season or postseason history.
Well, everybody, and I guess us included, and Ian, I probably shouldn't speak for you, but me and Joe have definitely been like, well, whoever wins Oklahoma City and San Antonio is going to end up winning the championship. And look, like those two teams, when you watch them, like it's clearly they're great teams. I think we all know that. But I mean, watching the Knicks play, like, are we just totally discounting them? Like, you tell me they don't have a chance to take down either one of those teams?
I think they have a chance. Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah. The way they've been playing, I'd say they have a chance. And if this Western Conference can still go 7 games, still fighting it out, both teams dealing with some injuries, hey, let's go. Let's give us a chance here, baby. 99, first time since the final since then when they played the Spurs.
Are you all in? You feeling it? You all in?
I mean, I'm starting. This series has gotten me a little bit back into it.
Okay.
There's such a gap in the NBA there where that 20 years it was just I didn't watch much. 2005, 2000 something until now, or 15 years where I just didn't watch much NBA, and I kind of lost it a little bit.
Sure,
but it's good to feel the vibes. Found an old sweatshirt and stuff, cleaning out the house, doing some spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Found the old hoodie. I was like, oh, here it is.
He's back.
So, yeah, it's good. It's fun to watch.
Well,
and it feels a little bit like the 90s, seeing some of the famous people, courtside and all that stuff. So it's good. And when the Knicks are good, it's good for the NBA.
I would agree. I don't think the NBA is sad to see the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals here. Meanwhile, on the Western side of things, you got San Antonio and Oklahoma City tied up at 2. So it looks like there's at least a chance that one could go 7 there. We'll see how that's going. Oklahoma City dealing with some injuries, so that one's going to be interesting to see, and they just cannot stop Victor Wembanyama.
It's been a fun series.
It's been a very fun series. We'll
that
see.
West one's been good too.
Yeah, we'll see what Game 5 kind of looks like on that front there. Obviously, it's a huge game back in Oklahoma City, but New York Knicks have punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. Meanwhile, on the hockey side of things, you have Carolina winning yesterday, taking a 2-1 lead in overtime on the road against the Montreal Canadiens. So they lost Game 1 in that series. They win Game 2 in overtime. They win Game 3 in overtime. So feeling good right now if you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan. And the Colorado Avalanche are down 0-3 to the Vegas Golden Knights, on the verge of being swept. Cale Makar missed the first 2 games of the series. He came back in Game 3, and I mean, you could just tell watching him, he's not. Something's clearly wrong. Like he's not anywhere close to 100%. And then in Game 3, Ian, Nathan McKinnon takes a puck basically like above the knee pad,
right around the knee, shot, blocked
and
it.
He was just done. Like he couldn't
sniper.
He couldn't move. Like it was the rest of the game. Like he got out there a couple times. And he got out there on the power play, and he got out there, when they pulled the goalie to try to go tie the game, but he just couldn't move. Avs had a 3-0 lead in the first period in that game. They blew it by like halfway through the second, and it was 3-3. You end up losing the game there in the third period, and they're down 0-3. Hey, look, Makar is injured. McKinnon's clearly nowhere close to 100%. And there's no telling whether or not he's going to play in Game 4. They're done. Like they're not winning. Like obviously, I mean, you're down 0-3.
Down 0-3.
That's a big enough of a problem to begin with. But if you're down 0-3 and you've got like a 50% Cale Makar and like a 60% Nathan McKinnon, you have no shot if you're Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, those are your 2 best players. And when in the playoffs, you need some unsung heroes, of course, but you need your best players to play their best. And if they're going to be out, then, well, at least not 100%, it's going to be tough when you're down 0-3. McKinnon, you would think he was able to kind of like shake that off, but I mean, a bruised knee is a bruised knee, and what can you do about that?
All I know is he got the puck. He was out for a minute, and he came back in, and he tried to test it fully on one shift. He got the puck in the middle of the ice. And it's one of those plays where, like, if you've watched Nathan McKinnon play long enough, you're like, okay, well, he's about to just totally separate from these 2 guys that are a little bit behind him. And they both caught up to him easily. And you could see it on his face. He was like, I can't move. And then he went back to the bench, and he did not get back out there 5-on-5 until, the power play situation came up later. Like I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know specifically what the injury is. I know there's not a lot of padding there. I don't know if something got it, like he broke something in there or what it is, but man, like it was jaw dropping to watching, because it was those plays you've seen him make 1,000 times where he gets the puck and no one's catching him there. And when 2 guys caught him, and I was like, oh, okay, he just can't move. So that's a big problem.
Yep. And, the goalie situation for Colorado's been okay. You would think that, hey, will that come back to bite them? They're sticking with Wedgwood. He hasn't been terrible. He made some big saves early on, but
probably a couple in that last game, though, that you want him to make.
Yep.
And I think this is clear. Like, Wedgwood has had a great year. Like, I think he led the league in goals against average and save percentage throughout the
regular season. Yeah.
In the regular season. So credit to him. It's a great year. But Ian, I think it also shows you, when you have a team like they have, and when you have Makar and McKinnon going the way that they were all year long, it just frankly makes life a lot easier on the goalie. And when you don't have that, it becomes a problem. Meanwhile, the flip side of that is the Vegas Golden Knights are 1 win away from getting back to a Stanley Cup final.
Crazy.
They've been in the league since 2017. If they get this next win, that will be their 3rd trip to the Stanley Cup final. So they have now been to the conference finals 5 times. So 5 times since they came into the league in 2017. They fired their coach and Bruce Cassidy like 2 weeks before the end of the regular season. And here they are, 1 win away from punching their ticket to yet another Stanley Cup final.
Pretty crazy.
And they're, obviously, if you're a fan around the league, I think for a lot of, people in management positions around the league. They don't like Vegas all that much, and I get it. But you have to, in some ways, kind of tip your cap a little bit and say, all right, they are as ruthless as it gets. They make bold move after bold move after bold move. And there's probably going to come a day where it stops working, but it hasn't yet. And this is their 5th trip to the conference final, and they're on the verge of a 3rd Stanley Cup final.
I was watching I think it was game 3, maybe it was game 2 over the weekend. My daughter's like, which one of these teams do you want to win? I'm like, neither.
Yeah, they could both lose.
I'm like, Colorado, cannot root for them. Vegas, cannot root for them. So I was like, oh, I don't want either team to win. She's like, you have to pick one team you want to win. I was like, no, I do not. But yeah,
you will not pressure me into this.
No, you will not. Vegas, crazy. I mean, the Marner trade obviously is looking great.
Yeah,
he is looking awesome. Stone came back, missed some games. He came back, and they went with Carter Hart in goal, kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Super random. As you mentioned, make the coaching change at the end of the regular season.
Yeah,
and just torts just rolling right along.
They've lost 4 games, I think, since he took over.
So I don't know. I guess they figured something out in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Some of the same core is still there, and they've been able to keep it rolling. Yeah. I'm surprised. It's obviously surprised it was 3-0. And the layoff for Colorado did not help, and it came right off the bat, and they haven't been able to pick back up. Combine that with the injuries.
Combine that with the injuries. And if you're a Predators fan, I mean, I guess it was cool watching Colton Sissons out there, and it's like, yeah, I mean, Sissons, and I guess to a much lesser degree, Cole Smith and Jeremy Lazan. Like, Sissons was here forever and was part of some big moments here for the franchise. So it's cool to see him, back in a situation where he's got a chance to maybe go out there and win a Stanley Cup. But, as Redemption points out on the YouTube chat, I'd be rooting for Carolina or Montreal over Vegas. I think a lot of people will be when it comes down to that.
Yeah. I wonder if Carolina, this feels like their year to make it at least to the final, given
it does
the situation. They haven't made it very far. I think the schedule is kind of working out for them. Get Montreal. Montreal looks good, but they're young. You can tell they need maybe an extra year or 2 in there. They're a little bit ahead of schedule. Carolina still hadn't make it to that cup final yet, or maybe, I don't know.
No, they hadn't made one.
Yeah. And so it looks like they're kind of due for that next step. And yeah, it's good for them to kind of carry on the momentum. I was worried about them for a little bit there, but they've snuck out a couple of OTs.
I will say, like, it shows you how quickly things can flip in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They lost the first game, which was a very predictable thing, by the way. Like, they were off for forever. They came out in the first game, they looked like crap. And they played really well in the second game, and then went to overtime. Like, Montreal got a late goal, and it's like, man, if they drop this game. They didn't. They win, and they win yesterday in overtime. And I forget what the shot count ended up being yesterday, but it was another one of those games where it's like they're just so suffocating.
Yeah, Montreal
Carolina
had like 11 shots at one point.
It was 38-13. That was the shot counter yesterday. So it's like Carolina, the last 2 games, has been way better. And you're talking about 2 overtime wins at that point. So it's been fun to watch how the Cup playoffs have played off to this point. We got a lot going on the show today. We'll have Ben McKee with us from Go Vols 24/7 later this hour at 6:30. We'll get into Tennessee's regional matchup. Alex Doherty from the Tennessean coming up at 7:30 to discuss the Predators GM search. Nick Suss from the Tennessean at 8 o'clock to get into all things Tennessee Titans. And my man Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com will be with us at 8:30 to talk Stanley Cup playoffs and also look ahead to the NHL draft. He's going to be at the NHL Combine coming up next week. So we got a lot to get into on the program today. We'll take your thoughts on all of it at 615-737-1025. The SEC spring meetings are underway, and Greg Sankey had some things to say on the college football playoff yesterday. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, presented by Green Ventures Landscaping for homes and businesses that want to stand out, not blend in. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Ben McKee from Go Vols 24/7 will be with us here in about 10 minutes. We will get into Tennessee in the NCAA tournament and their regional matchup with him. So looking forward to that coming up here in just a few minutes. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. The SEC spring meetings getting underway down there in Florida at the beach. So shout out to the SEC for at least having the good sense to put their meetings at the beach so people can enjoy that. Obviously, the college football playoff going to be a big topic of conversation heading into all this. And SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey doing his best yesterday to kind of temper expectations about what exactly is going to get done at the SEC meetings this week. But a lot of interesting things that are coming out of Greg Sankey's mouth lately. Here's what he had to say, I believe, yesterday as the meetings get underway down there in Florida.
We've used examples from professional sports. When professional sports have added to their postseason, it's always been a small adjustment. 4-12 was monumental, but I think it was justifiable. And you want to be careful about how far you go. And that's understanding the competitive impacts, and maybe you bring more teams into the conversation and you make a judgment, because that's what I think you'd have to do, that, hey, a game that may not have that same type of leverage, if you will, or that same type of value because both teams could be in, that's minimal, but the ability to bring more teams into the conversation that would have been out creates value in the regular season.
So that was basically Greg Sankey's long answer as he was getting through the middle of it, of saying, you got to be careful of how much you expand this thing. And right now where things stand are the ACC, the Big 12, and the Big 10 have all come out, at least from a commissioner standpoint and from the decision-maker standpoint, and say, yep, 24 teams. That's what we want when it comes to the college football playoff. The SEC is kind of holding their line at 16 there. So it doesn't sound like any big decision is going to get made in terms of the college football playoff this week at the SEC meetings. The SEC, from that standpoint, is on an island right now when it comes to that part of the decision. My guess is, Ian, that this is going to be something that drags on here. And, when December, I believe December 1st, maybe the deadline.
So there is an actual deadline when this needs to be decided.
They've got to get this thing figured out, or I guess it just keeps getting pushed off to 12 beyond that. I don't think this conversation is going anywhere right now. If I get, we've sit here and whined for 4 weeks about the 2014 playoff. I think everybody understands how we feel on it. And judging by the reaction to most college football playoff fans, I think most people feel the same way. The question now is, everybody understands how the fans feel. Is the SEC going to hold their ground on this? That's really the question. Is the SEC going to say, we're not going to 24? Because they're not getting to 24 without the SEC's approval. It's just not happening, right? We've talked about this. It's the ACC can offer their opinions, and the Big 12 can offer their opinions. But this really, with the way that things are kind of laid out here, boils down to the Big 10 and the SEC. And if the SEC really wants to put their foot down here and not allow this thing to expand, they basically can. So I guess my question looking ahead here as this continues to be kind of drug out over the next few months is, how committed is Greg Sankey and the presidents in the SEC to not letting this thing get to 24? And do they overcome what seems to be, Ian, a groundswell of support from their own coaches who want to see this thing get to 24? That's the real question.
It is interesting because you have the coaches in the SEC that would like to see expansion because they think it helps preserve their jobs. And you see all the other conferences also kind of want expansion, but the presidents are kind of against it, but they're also in the same boat as the fans. The fans don't want it. The presidents don't want it. The thing is, the fans don't really get what they want. It doesn't really matter. So the fact that it's kind of aligned with the fans and some of the SEC higher-ups is interesting because usually that's not the case. Usually the SEC higher-ups and the fans are in opposite directions. They want different things. One wants to expand to create more money. The others just want to have a a good product to watch on TV on the weekends. So there does seem a little bit of a different push and pull here than normal. I wonder who will win out.
Yeah.
Because the SEC is probably the most. I don't know. Do you think SEC or the Big Ten is the most powerful conference right now?
They're pretty comparable right now. I mean,
it's close.
The money is the comparable thing, right? And
Yeah.
I think the Big Ten has got a little bit more money, but it's not that much. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like those two. It's those two conferences, and the ACC and the Big 12 are
kind of
basically along for the ride.
Yeah.
Like somebody asked Sankey yesterday about being the last like holdout on the 24, and I think Sankey's quote was, "Doesn't bother me. People tell me that, but I don't know if you pay attention in college sports. Positions seem to change a lot." Like somebody, I guess,
that's true.
If you think back to a year ago, the Big Ten was the one pushing the 16-team playoff, right?
Yep.
And somebody told Sankey yesterday, they're like, yeah, Tony Petitti says that they haven't even had any conversations about 16. And Sankey basically said, well, that's interesting because last year they were the one that came up with the idea. So it wasn't us. I mean, it's the bickering back and forth basically between Sankey and Petitti is pretty fun.
It's definitely funny. And it's the way these guys have kind of fighting back and forth over the whole expansion is interesting. How some want to keep it, how much is too much expansion?
Right.
For these people.
Well,
what draws the line? Is it strictly the regular season? Like all of a sudden these people care about the regular season? I don't understand it. I mean, I guess if you go too far, it completely ruins the regular season where we're not quite there yet. And that, some of the regular season is still matters, even though the conference championships kind of don't matter. So some of the regular season matters less, although technically I guess that's not regular season. But I don't know. College sports right now is just so out of whack with the whole way they had been running and working, and it's gone completely 180 with the NIL.
They just weren't prepared at all.
And it's just completely thrown everybody out of whack so quickly. And everyone is really struggling to adjust on the fly.
Yeah, they just were. I mean, zero preparation for something that they should have seen coming for a long time.
This should have been seen. Maybe if they weren't fighting so hard to keep it this way, they would have been more prepared for the next step. Instead, it was just head in the sand, keep our bowl games, keep our money, whatever. And instead, it's all out of whack now. For so long, they're struggling to readjust.
Yep. Ben McKee from Go Vols 24/7 will be with us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. The Vols back in the NCAA tournament on the baseball side of things for the 7th consecutive year. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and welcome in our friend Ben McKee to the program from Go Vols 24/7. Ben, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Ben, let's just start there. What do you make of the regional for Tennessee that they've drawn here going to North Carolina? You've got East Carolina in the region as the 3 seed. You got VCU in there as well. What do you make of the draw here for Tennessee as they enter the NCAA tournament for the 7th consecutive year?
Yeah, it's a really tough draw. And North Carolina is the number 5 national seed, and that's supposed to be a good thing. And it is, I suppose. But if I'm a North Carolina fan, I'm pretty upset with the draw because I think it's fair to say that it's a loaded regional. Just with the teams that are obviously coming. Tennessee is Tennessee. That's what North Carolina coach Scott Forbes said yesterday. That kind of speaks for itself, and they are an SEC program. But East Carolina, I don't know that this East Carolina team is as good as some of the teams that we've seen them have over the last decade or so. But it's a great program under Cliff Godwin. He's passed up on a number of big-time jobs over the years and is more than capable of being an SEC head coach, could have been an SEC head coach by now if he wanted to. So that's just a great program, and they're going to be a tough out for Tennessee on Friday when they kick it off at noon. And then what makes this regional so loaded is that VCU, if you're going off of RPI, it's the highest ranked 4 seed in terms of RPI. And because of that, the top 8 national seeds, the seeds that could host this weekend and next weekend if they make it to a super regional, it has the highest combined RPI by like 10 spots. So North Carolina did not get the ideal draw for what you would think would be a number 5 seed. So a lot of talent, a lot of really, really good programs. North Carolina, Tennessee, East Carolina speak for themselves with what they've been able to do over the last decade or so. But VCU is a really cool story this year, and they're playing great baseball at the right time. So it's going to be a really tough weekend for Tennessee.
So, Ben, as you know, it's been a very fascinating year for Tennessee baseball. From obviously the coaching change heading into it, you got Elander coming in, and I think if you're a Tennessee fan that was being realistic, there had to be, I guess, some expectation of some sort of transitional period, and we saw that at the beginning of the year. They started to hit the cover off the ball as the year went on, played much better down the stretch. So overall, ending up as a 2 seed, and we'll see how things go for them here in the regional. What do you make of kind of the job that Elander did in year 1 here as we get into postseason baseball now?
I think he's done a phenomenal job. I really do. I realize that Tennessee isn't hosting, and at bare minimum, that's the new expectation and the standard of the program is to be playing postseason baseball in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. But I think for Josh Elander to be able to navigate Tony Vitello leaving with 2 weeks remaining in the fall, keep everybody together, go through some early season struggles that were a byproduct of roster construction, not anything he was doing wrong from a managerial standpoint, culture building standpoint, leadership standpoint. It was just poor roster construction and a young group too that just needed to grow and get some playing time under their belt. And you've seen the fruits of that labor here at the end of the season with the way the offense has come on over the last month or so. So for him to navigate that, the Tony Vitello transition, a youthful offense, some poor roster construction, and to have them as a 2 seed in a regional in year 1, I think it's really impressive. Now, I think the low-hanging fruit is, well, they have one of the most talented rosters, and he took over a Ferrari and so on and so forth. And like, that's fair. And I totally get that. But I don't think that in the process of understanding that, we should forget just how difficult of a transition Josh Elander had to navigate as a first-time head coach. It's not like he's been a head coach before. He's still a young guy. He's in his 30s, first time being a head coach in the SEC with expectations galore given what Tony established. And I think for them to be where they are now on the cusp of 40 wins, fighting to make a 6th straight super regional, I think he's done a really, really good job.
So if you're Elander heading into this, knowing the regional is as loaded as you just laid out there, Ben, how do you handle kind of the pitching for game one if you're Tennessee heading into this?
Yeah, it's the same question we ask every year with every team. All the 1 and 2 seeds are having these conversations today. Had them yesterday or having them today. The fans and media of the teams are having the same conversations. And for Tennessee's sake, it's, do you hold Tegan Coons for Saturday's game, the second game of Tennessee's regional, for a theoretical matchup with top seed North Carolina? And I totally see the advantages of doing so. I don't think anybody's wrong for thinking they should hold Tegan, Tennessee's ace, for North Carolina, a potential matchup with North Carolina. But I'm a big believer in setting the tone for the weekend. I'm a big believer in not doing anything too out of the box or too out of the ordinary from what the team already knows this time of year, just because it's the most important time of year. I think you want to kind of keep it as normal as possible. So the moment's already big. You don't want to make it bigger than it is by moving this guy around, that guy around. So I'm a big believer in just kind of keeping it the same and setting the tone for the weekend, allowing Tegan to set the tone against East Carolina, let him do his thing. And then Evan Blanco is plenty good enough to pitch well against North Carolina and beat North Carolina, quite frankly. He transferred from Virginia. It's a club that he's going to be very familiar with, at least the logo, maybe not the roster in today's day and age of the transfer portal era. But if you go back to his sophomore season, when he was at Virginia, he was banged up as a junior and struggled, but his best year at Virginia was his sophomore year, the year Tennessee won the national championship. And he pitched well against North Carolina in the regular season, and then he actually pitched really well against North Carolina in Omaha. So different roster, I'm sure. There might be one guy left over in today's era of college athletics, but he's at least familiar with the logo. And the ACC is a really good conference, and he's more than capable of pitching well against them. So I trust Blanco to go out and pitch well against North Carolina. But with Tegan, I think it's as simple as East Carolina is too good of a program to overlook in that sense. So I'm not trying to get too cute with it.
Ben McKee with us here on the program talking Vols, who are headed to the NCAA tournament for the 7th consecutive year. So, Ben, you mentioned the offense over the last month. They've been a really good offensive team. I mean, I think if you were looking for a series that really kind of opened my eyes to it, it was the Texas series. It's like, wow, that's a really good team that they just went out and lit up in that series. What do you think the difference was as the season went on offensively? Is it as simple as younger guys just getting more comfortable as time goes on? What do you think ended up being the difference offensively for Tennessee?
Yeah, I do think it is that simple. When I mentioned earlier that guys just needed to get some playing time under their belt, I was talking about the offense directly. It was a young position player group coming into the season. If I remember correctly, it was the youngest position player group coming into the season. And I think because Tennessee baseball has become what Tennessee baseball has become, you just think, oh, well, they'll just pick up where Andrew Fisher and Gavin Keelan and Dean Curley left off, and there won't be any hurdles for them to jump and get over. But a quick dose of reality, I guess, this season that it doesn't work like that, even for Tennessee or what you see Vanderbilt and LSU going through this year as well. So it was the youngest position player group coming into the regular season this year in the SEC, and I think you saw that at the beginning of the year with several young guys struggling. Levi Clark got off to a really tough start. Manny Marin, Jay Abernathy. There, Blake Grimmer was hurt to begin the year. He's become a key piece to the lineup. Garrett Wright was hurt to begin the year. He's the leadoff hitter and really sets the tone for this lineup. So you weren't healthy. You didn't realize at the time how important Garrett Wright and Blake Grimmer were going to be. You had an idea, but you didn't know for sure, just because this was their first time being a full-time, everyday starter, every game starter in the SEC. So it was key for Tennessee to get them back. And then guys like Levi Clark turning a corner, Trent Grenlinger coming on and proving to be one of the best freshmen in the country this season. It was just a group that dealt with some injuries. In addition to the ones I already mentioned, Henry Ford had walking pneumonia for like a month and lost 20 pounds. So it's just little things like that that just added up on top of the inexperience. And now that Manny and Levi and those guys have so many at bats under their belt, you're starting to see them play to their full potential. But to really narrow it down, I think the emergence of Trent Grenlinger and then Levi Clark turning a corner about midway through SEC play, I don't think it's any coincidence that Tennessee's power numbers started to rise once those guys got going.
All right, last thing, totally unrelated, but I do have to ask you about this. What do you make of 101,000 people showing up to Neyland Stadium to watch the Savannah Bananas?
Well, I was responsible for 4 of the 101,000, and we had a really good time. The TikToks and the dancing and the shirtless bodybuilders. I don't know that part is for me. But the baseball is, I do think it's really cool. I think it's an entertaining product. We had a great time. My boys had a great time. Of course, it's geared for kids, and I feel like the Savannah Banana haters forget that. But the kids absolutely love it, and it was a great environment. I think Neyland or not, it would be a great environment to attend. But it was unique seeing it in Neyland, and that made it even better. So the dancing and the TikToks aren't for me, but the baseball and the environment and the vibes are certainly cool. I would recommend it to anybody with the youngsters. I think it's a good family outing.
Yeah, same. I mean, it was kind of jarring seeing a baseball field at Neyland, but it looked like a really fun environment. So glad you guys had a good time. Ben McKee with us from Go Vols 24/7. Ben, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Going to be fun to watch this team coming up in the regional. And we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Thanks, Robby. Hope you have a great week.
Absolutely, you as well. Ben McKee with us here on the program. Tennessee punching their ticket to the regional for the 7th consecutive year. We will take your thoughts on that. And Vanderbilt, not in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2005. 2005. We will get into all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Don't miss GalaxyCon at the Nashville Fairgrounds coming up May the 29th through May 31st, a 3-day festival of fandom with celebrities, artists, entertainers, and more. For more information, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Appreciate Ben McKee from GoVols 24/7 for being with us in the last segment. Tennessee back in the NCAA tournament. They're in the Chapel Hill Regional, taking on North Carolina, the 1 seed there. East Carolina, the 3 seed, VCU, the 4 seed. So Tennessee going to play East Carolina coming up on Friday as action begins there for the Vols in the postseason. You heard Ben McKee lay it out there.
Not too far of a drive there.
Not too far of a drive.
Pretty close regional.
You know, I would imagine that there will be
They'll show up.
a pretty good amount of Tennessee fans that are there. I mean, obviously not as many as North Carolina, but you'll have pretty good showing, I think, from Tennessee fans there in Chapel Hill. So not a bad drive there. It was interesting to hear Ben McKee kind of lay it out the way that he did when you look at all kind of like the analytics and the RPI and all those things. Pretty tough regional coming up for Tennessee. But also, like, if you're North Carolina, you're like, crap, man. We got Tennessee, who, you know, been up and down this year, but a very talented team. You got East Carolina, who's been kind of a staple in this thing. VCU coming in, and you heard Ben McKee say it there. As far as the 4 seeds go, they're the highest ranked one when it comes to analytically. So if you're North Carolina, you're kind of looking around and saying, man, what the heck, man? What are we supposed to do here? The number 5 seed nationally. So that part of it's going to be interesting. I am interested to see how Tennessee handles the pitching there. I think, Ian, I'm kind of with Ben when it comes to, like, it's always a fascinating debate because as soon as you get to, like, the super regional, it's just like a series, right? It's like a weekend series that you're doing, and the pitching, I think, is pretty cut and dry as to what you do.
Yep.
The regional is interesting because if you lose that first game, it's just really tough to get all the way back and win it. It can happen. We've seen teams do it before, but it's tough. So you want to go ahead and set the tone, but also, like, there is something tempted about leaving your ace for that Saturday theoretical matchup against North Carolina. So I'm really interested to see how Elander handles that heading into this weekend. It's what makes the regional, I think, a lot of fun from a strategy standpoint.
Yeah, I wonder if some coaches just have, like, their philosophy and they stick with it no matter what, versus how many kind of tweak it on the fly, given the matchup or vibes or feels or something like that. Do you go with that, or do you just say, hey, this is my strategy, this is what works, this is what we're doing? College baseball, when it comes to pitching like that, and the whole College World Series, is an interesting cat. It's one of the more unique postseasons. Yeah, I have to say, college baseball. It's regionals, super regionals, College World Series, the strategy that kind of goes involved with all that, the pitching, and it's just kind of fun, you know. Yeah. Even if you're not big into college baseball, and that would be me normally, the World Series is fun just for kind of that situation. The whole strategy behind it, I think, is interesting. I think this is the time of year when a lot of the casuals get into it, right? Like, and even me, like, you know, obviously I'm a Tennessee fan. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I watch Tennessee baseball every game, every weekend. Like, if it's on, I'll throw it on there for a little while. But this is the time of year where I really start to get into it. And some of that's because there's not a lot going on. I mean, the calendar plays a part in it. This weekend will be pretty chill. Yeah, exactly. So, like, some of it is as simple as that. But I do think what you just said about, you know, the regional specifically, like the strategy in it, is just really fascinating here. Now, it is kind of jarring to be talking about an NCAA tournament coming up and to not be talking about Vanderbilt. For the first time since 2005, Vanderbilt is missing the NCAA tournament. They had a 19-year streak. It was the longest in Division I baseball. It was the longest in the history of the SEC. So that's what you're talking about with what Tim Corbin has done here. So first off, I mean, it's an unbelievable run, right? To make the NCAA tournament for 19 consecutive years. I just laid it out there. It hasn't been done before in the history of the SEC. So on the one hand, I think there's some kudos that have to be in order for what Tim Corbin has been able to do and that program that he's been able to lead to the top for so long, that you're talking about missing the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2005. On the other hand, I do think it, as a Vanderbilt fan, leaves you wondering, all right, well, where does things go from here, right? Like, you know, it wasn't that long ago thinking about Vanderbilt missing the NCAA tournament.
was borderline unthinkable. And it's not just like, been throughout LSU. It's down year for LSU. Like, this happens in this sport, but it does kind of leave you wondering, I think, where do things go from here with Tim Corbin? Are they going to be able to bounce back next season? Do they get back to, at any point in the foreseeable future, not just getting back into the tournament, but being a team that's a legitimate contender to go to Omaha and win, right? I mean, that's what you're used to as a Vanderbilt fan. So missing out on the tournament for the first time since 2005. We knew it was coming for the last couple of weeks. Like,
they've been struggling a little bit.
When you got down to the last couple of weeks of the regular season, I mean, it was going to be an extreme long shot for Vanderbilt to make the NCAA tournament. So it's not like this is a surprise yesterday that it officially happened over the weekend, but it is jarring to have an NCAA tournament coming up and to not have Vanderbilt in it.
Yeah, it will be different for sure, especially around here. We're definitely used to talking about it. And the whole Tennessee and Vandy rivalry had really picked up the last few years, which is always fun. So to see, to miss out on a potential postseason matchup between the two of them, that, not that they would have been in the same regional or anything like that, but it could have set up something big. And, SEC is always big. Georgia, I guess, is favored again to be pretty good. So, moving forward, as far as what this means for the Vandy program, I mean, if you're Tim Corbin, I say, you're allowed to have 1 year where you miss it, right? Like,
I mean, it was inevitable at some point.
You can't make it every year. And I'm not sure this year the roster was so bad that they had zero chance. I think they dealt with a lot of injuries. They were a little bit up and down, inconsistent. So
the pitching was a problem.
And
it just was.
And so I think they could easily bounce back next year and make it back, especially the way you see in NIL and the transfer portal and baseball. I know there's been some criticism about Tim Corbin and maybe the usage there, but in general, you can't complain too much the way they've been rolling. And so you give them a year off, maybe recoup, reshuffle the lineups, get some better injury luck. I wouldn't be surprised to see him right back in it next year.
Yeah, it's a heck of a run that they put together, but, first time since 2005 that they're not in the NCAA tournament here. So a lot of questions about where that's going to be headed as things move forward here. We'll see what Tennessee does. My guess is, in fact, if you're forcing me to pick, I'm going to pick that North Carolina gets out of the regional. But that's the beautiful part about the regional is we've seen 4 seeds get out of there. We've seen 3 seeds get out of there. A lot of 2 seeds get out of there. It's a pretty, I'm not going to say it's a random thing, but in some ways it kind of feels like that because it's just tough to get out of a regional. So we'll see if Tennessee can handle that coming up. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. The Nashville Predators still searching for a general manager. At least we think so. And there's another name that has emerged out there that, frankly, I did not expect to emerge. We will get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. We are presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. Get thicker grass, better color, and fewer bare spots with turf application. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode out today. He will be back tomorrow. We got a very busy show. Ben McKee was with us in the first hour. Alex Doherty from the Tennessean will be with us later this hour at 7:30. We will get into the Nashville Predators search for general manager with him. Nick Suss from the Tennessean at 8 o'clock, talking all things Titans. Adam Kemmelman from NHL.com at 8:30, breaking down the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NHL draft that is coming up as well. So we'll get your thoughts in the meantime on all that. 615-737-1025. So we will have Alex Doherty later this hour. And some buzz over the weekend, Ian, about the Nashville Predators and their general manager position that is still open. Now,
Still buzzing.
Still buzzing. A lot of buzzing going on. As we know, the Maple Leafs have made a hire. The Vancouver Canucks have made a hire, which means the Predators are the only one that have a vacancy at the moment at general manager. So,
Even though they were the first to fire their GM.
By far.
Technically, they didn't fire him, but yes.
First to announce a succession plan
Change
coming up. So still waiting for the Nashville Predators to name their next general manager. And some thoughts, some reporting over the weekend. And I want to say like the Toronto Star had this first on the idea of Colorado Avalanche general manager Chris McFarland being a target for the Predators to come in for this job. Now, if you're wondering out there, okay, Colorado has a general manager. It's the Colorado Avalanche. They're awesome. Why would their general manager leave and come be the GM of the Preds? Well, their setup is Chris McFarland is the general manager, but Joe Sakic is the president of hockey operations. And Joe Sakic is the one making decisions, right? Like he's the one that is building the team, making those decisions, and he is the one that has the power, for lack of a better term. Now, McFarland was promoted to general manager in July of 2022 by the Colorado Avalanche after they won the Stanley Cup. So he's 56 years old. He's got a lot of people like Chris McFarland, right? He's a part of a very successful organization. But maybe an idea out there that the Predators are waiting to talk to him about their open position, and that is part of why no announcement or no hire has been made to this point. Elliot Friedman and Kyle Bukauskas discussed this a little bit this week, yesterday on their latest edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast. Here is part of what Elliot Friedman had to say.
So first of all, I do not believe there is an announcement imminent on Monday. It's still, we wait. And so when that McFarland thing came out, that is one of the things I've been wondering about, if Nashville is waiting to talk to him. And I do believe it's possible that that is one of the reasons that the search has taken this long. However, I would like to stress, I do not believe there's any deal or agreement in place or anything close to it. I do not believe it is a guarantee that he's going to Nashville or he's leaving Colorado. But the length of the search definitely makes it look like the Predators are waiting to talk to someone, and he is a logical target. Now, you'll remember that earlier in the year, when they began their search, they asked for permission to speak to the GM of the Hurricanes, Eric Tulsky, and they were rejected. There is no way, similarly, that Colorado would even consider that request with the team still playing. If it was made, and I don't know that it's been made, but even if it was made, there's no way Colorado would say yes to it.
So that is Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast, talking about the idea of maybe Chris McFarland being a guy that the Predators are waiting to talk to here. So, Ian, we've we've gone through kind of like the Carolina part of this. As you mentioned there, they asked pretty early in the process to talk to Eric Tulsky, who is the GM for Carolina. And we've gone through kind of like, okay, the Predators are clearly waiting on somebody.
And there was the other GM guy. Who was the assistant GM for Carolina?
And for some reason right now I'm totally blanking.
York?
Yes. Darren York.
Darren York?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
So Darren York.
That was kind of rumored too. The other second in command in Carolina.
Right. Because it's pretty clear, as Friedman points out at this point, that they're waiting on somebody. Right. Otherwise, I mean, if it was as simple as hiring Tom Fitzgerald or as simple as hiring somebody from Florida or Dallas, and that was what they were going to do, or at least that's what they were just totally set on doing, they would have done it by now. I mean,
they've been eliminated for quite a while.
Right. I mean, there's no point in waiting this long if you're not interested in speaking with somebody who's still alive and in the playoffs. So that part of it, I think, is interesting. And, as Friedman points out there, like if you're Colorado, you've got your general manager who, again, it's a different setup. They've got a president of hockey operations. Several teams around the league have that setup now. I'm interested to see the Predators incorporate that sort of a setup. We'll see what happens here. But McFarland, a guy that obviously is in a very successful organization. Like, I mean, the allure for him would be if he came to Nashville, presumably. I mean, he would be the one calling all the shots.
Yep,
right?
He got final say.
Right. So that would be the allure here. He does have another year left on his contract, and we'll get into another clip from Friedman here in just a few minutes, kind of going over what that's going to look like. But on the surface, Ian, let's just take this at face value, this conversation, and say that McFarland is a guy that the Predators are interested in talking to. What do you make of the idea of a guy from Colorado who's obviously been a part of a lot of success, who hasn't really been the primary decision maker? What do you make of that being a target for the Nashville Predators?
It's interesting because we've kind of talked about this over the past couple of weeks when it comes to this, and we've brought it up when it came to the Titans hiring Mike Borgonzi. How much does the number 2 in whoever's organization, what is their role in the selection of the players? They might not have final say, but how much are they in the talks about who to pick? How much are they helping establish a pecking order of a plan on how you at least scout? How much of the blueprint are they involved in? And I think that's an interesting question in general when it comes to, hiring your next GM and trying to take the number 2 and making him the number 1. And I think that in general, that's a fun discussion to have philosophy wise and how you kind of go about it. And if you're picking the number 2 from Colorado, at least they're experienced. They have seen a rebuild kind of. You go down, from McKinnon to Makar, those are top picks. Landeskog, Rantanen, these are all top first rounders. Then you've seen some trades where you make the trade for Natchez, or you make a move at the deadline for Kadri. So I think there are multiple ways in which Colorado has adjusted their roster over the years, where I think a number 2 there has seen a lot of different ways of going about to building the roster. So I think that part's good.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I think he got there, and I think he was hired as an AGM in May of 2015.
So that's a long time.
So it's been there a long time. I mean, obviously, it's been a building process. Like when not only him, but when he first got there, when Sakic started all this, and when Bednar was the head coach, they were awful. Like when they first got there, they were terrible. And they had already drafted McKinnon by that point, but they were still awful. I mean, you had Landeskog, a lot younger. You had McKinnon just coming into the league. At the time, I think they had Matt Duchene. Like, they had a roster that they had to basically flip.
Yep.
At that point, they did. And then, in addition to that, McKinnon turned into one of the best players in the league. You end up years later drafting Cale Makar, and that obviously has worked out very well. So some of it is like you're Chris McFarland, you're Joe Sakic, and it's like, well, you walked into a situation where you had Nathan McKinnon, and you ended up having pretty good fortune to draft Cale Makar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it goes on your ledger. You made that decision. So you drafted Cale Makar. So good on you, right? I mean, that's
for sure.
That's what you did.
That counts as a win.
That counts. So that part of it, I think, is really interesting. I think what you just laid out is the most fascinating thing to me. They have kind of through two different iterations here. They won the cup in 2022, and Predators fans got to see it up close and personal. They were an absolute machine. I mean, that team was unbelievable, and they got to the playoffs and they basically just steamrolled everyone. I know that they got to Tampa, and it was a semi-interesting series in the final between them and Tampa. But there was never a point in that series where I felt like Colorado wasn't in control. They win the cup, and it's been disappointing since then in terms of their postseason output until this year where they're back in the conference final. But they kind of rebuilt their roster and maneuvered it around to where this year they were loaded again. So, I think Sakic and McFarland and everybody kind of involved with that deserves credit. Of course, like the main reasons that they're there are McKinnon and McCarr.
They hit on their draft picks,
but
top
as
picks.
as Edmonton kind of shows you, it can't just be your best players. You got to supplement those guys well. And I think especially this year, they've really done that well. So I think they're about to get eliminated from the playoffs here. They've had some rotten injury luck at a bad time here in the playoffs. So that part of it is going to end up being disappointing. But I think on the whole, they've done a good job of kind of reloading and retooling their roster back to a point where you feel pretty good about it. He's a really intriguing guy to me. You always wonder, when you go from an assistant general manager to a general manager that is involved in the decision making, and it's not like he's totally absent of what they've done here. But I think everybody understands at the end of the day, the final roster decisions come from Joe Sakic in this setup. Taking that guy and going to the top dog here, if that's the way it plays out, it's always interesting to see what that looks like. But, I mean, that's no different if you hire an AGM from Florida or an AGM from Dallas, or if you hire Darren York from Carolina. That's the natural question that's going to be there. And at least this guy technically has general manager experience.
And you wonder during the interview process, if you're the Preds, who do you talk to about that kind of stuff?
Right.
And who can you expect to get a true, fair answer about his role and how important he was in the front office? Are they trying to keep McFarland around so they kind of, don't want to give you the true, hey, he really was involved, but we don't want to tell them that so they don't try and take him? Or are they being upfront about how important he was to the franchise? And are they trying to, are they going to be mad if he leaves and takes a GM job somewhere else? How much are they worried that's really going to set their franchise back?
Right.
The Avs, if they were to lose him. So, who do you trust when it comes to that in the interview process, and what you can believe as far as his impact was on the team and the roster and the scouting?
Now the question is, how likely is this to actually happen? Like, how likely is it that Chris McFarland is the target for the Predators and that he's going to be their next GM? Elliot Friedman touched on that a little bit in the 32 Thoughts podcast. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Today, the Nashville Sounds taking on the Gwinnett Stripers at First Horizon Park. First pitch at 6:35. Catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, and Social Cantina. The Gwinnett Stripers, the AAA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. Alex Doherty from the Tennessean will be with us at 7:30. We will get into the Preds GM search with him. The Rob Rant coming up at 7:45. All that ahead here on the program. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Colorado still in the playoffs, down 0-3 to the Vegas Golden Knights, and some buzz over the weekend that maybe one of the targets for the Nashville Predators could be Chris McFarland, who is the GM for Colorado. So how likely is this to happen? What does this look like in terms of McFarland, his availability, the Predators' interest level, and what could this ultimately lead to? Elliot Friedman talked a little bit more about that on the 32 Thoughts podcast. Here's what he had to say on Monday's edition.
I think it's also important to know Colorado's history with McFarland. When Anaheim hired Pat Verbeek, the Ducks during their search asked for permission to talk to McFarland, and he would have been a very legitimate contender there. At the time, Joe Sakic was still the GM. He spoke to McFarland first, and he asked him, I went through my old notes, he asked him what he wanted to do. And McFarland's answer was he would like to be a GM. He would prefer to be in Colorado, but if Sakic was unwilling to give up the spot, he would like the opportunity to try to do it somewhere else. Well, what Sakic did was he denied permission and eventually promoted McFarland to the GM. So obviously the organization values him highly. So what I would say is that I don't believe anything is done. I don't believe that Colorado has allowed him to talk or would allow him to talk during the season. I think he's still under contract, but I do believe that Nashville would potentially ask. And the other thing here is, from what a couple of people, because this caused some buzz around the NHL. The other word on him is that he's not going to leave Colorado unless it was just like a huge step up. And, I just don't know that that's what Nashville would want to do. So I think it's just the safest way to put it is I don't believe they have permission to talk to him. I don't believe there's any agreement in place. So I don't believe this is anywhere near as far along as it's been suggested. But do I think it's possible they will ask to talk to him when Colorado's season is over? Yes. But I think the idea that it's a done deal or he's 100% going there, I think that is way, way, way premature.
So it was Elliot Friedman, Ian, and that part of it is very interesting to me because on the surface, I hear that and I say, boy, it sounds like there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through if he's going to end up being the guy.
Just
right?
to get an interview.
Right. I mean, like, he's got another year left on his contract. Technically, he is their general manager. So, like, right?
That's true.
I mean, he is their GM.
Even if he's not final say.
Even if he's not, even if, it's a setup where it's like everybody is like, okay, Joe Sakic is in control of what's going on there.
It's just we're torn. I don't know. I'm not thinking of we're scarred here because the whole Brinker, Carthon decision-making thing here. We've had way too much discussion about this and not involving the Preds. That's made this whole thing out of whack for us. Side note. Anyways.
Well, I think that's a good point. And I hear Friedman talking about, like, I don't think McFarland would be interested in going anywhere and leaving Colorado unless it was a huge step up. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean, is the huge step up as simple as I'm in charge of everything and I'm the one making the decision? Or is a huge step up mean I'm in charge of everything, I'm the one making the decision, and I want to be on a team that's close to winning a championship? Because those are two different things, right? I mean, I don't think any of us would argue that the Predators are knocking on the door of winning a Stanley Cup here. So is Nashville the type of job? Well, let's say that they did get permission to talk to him, which, here's the other thing. Colorado and Nashville, I mean, it's not like there's some, heated history of just, it's not like the, Preds and the Blackhawks or the Preds and the Ducks. It's not like some huge history of big-time rivalry there. They have been in the same division since the Predators came into the league. It's a Central Division opponent. Like, I don't think Colorado would be all that excited about Chris McFarland leaving and going to be the general manager of the Nashville Predators. So it just feels like after hearing Friedman go through all that, that I guess unlikely is the word that comes to mind to me that this is going to actually end up being the guy for the Predators.
I don't know. I wonder, is there something about the Preds' job right now that is unattractive to GM candidates?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think that's necessarily the case, but you wonder why somebody would be reluctant to be the GM of another team if it's a step up.
Yeah, like that part of it.
You know, why, if you're McFarland in Colorado and you don't have final say, would you not want to go somewhere with final say?
Yeah.
Is it strictly because you feel like this is a long rebuild, or is the job you feel like you're setting yourself up for failure?
Maybe.
Where you are, where the roster is, the input you've heard from ownership, the Stamkos rebuild, O'Reilly situation. Do you feel like you don't have a full hand to work with because you're hamstrung about the decisions you can make based on the personnel of the roster right now?
Well, and here's the other thing, and you could apply this conversation to McFarland or not. Clearly, they're waiting on somebody, right? So, as I laid out to start this whole conversation, it's not really like they have to be in a rush from the standpoint of, competing with other teams. Like the Maple Leafs and Canucks have already hired their people, right? So, I mean, the Predators are the team with the job opening. They can circle back and do whatever they want to at this point. But like, if you're somebody that they've already interviewed, whether it's Fitzgerald or pick your person that they've already interviewed, clearly they have not been blown away by somebody enough to the point where they're like, yeah, we got to hire that person, right? So if they get to the end of this and it doesn't work out with McFarland or whoever that they're waiting on, and they got to go back and I guess circle back to people they've already talked to. Well, what does that say, right? Like, because look, I have no idea how those conversations gone. Maybe they've interviewed a couple people throughout the way where they are comfortable with it, but they just want to make sure that they've touched all their bases here. But on the surface, I think from the outside looking in, Ian, you look at this and you say, all right, well, if they were that blown away by people that they've already talked to, wouldn't you have made a hire at this point?
You would think so.
So I that's going to be, if it ends up not being McFarland or they end up not hiring somebody that's still in the playoffs and they circle back to somebody that they've already interviewed, I do think from the fan base perspective, there's going to be a little bit of, okay, so what exactly does that mean? Like, you guys interviewed them and then we're waiting on other people and then didn't get to talk to those other people or didn't land the job with those other people. So it feels like you circled back at that point. I don't know. Like, I've thought about that from an optics standpoint and what that's going to look like if it plays out that way.
What if they do the whole cycle and be like, you know what? We decided we have the man for the job right here. Barry Trotz is coming back for another year. What if they do all that and somehow they convince Barry to return for another year?
I can tell you this. If that's the way it plays out, the fan base is it's not going to go.
I don't think that will happen because he's kind of made that decision. You know, it's not like they pushed him out or anything like that. It sounds like Trotz wants to retire.
Yeah.
But it is just funny to think about, like, hey, after all this, you know what? We're just going to stick with it, go for another year.
I mean, Haslam did say at the press conference back in February that they could drag this out as long as they wanted to because they've got Barry Trotz. So
I mean, he's technically still around.
Yeah, he's around.
And I guess he'll be around through the draft.
Yeah.
And so it's not maybe necessarily a dire need. It's not like, oh, we have no GM right now. Nothing's getting done. We've seen some pictures on social today of Trotz meeting with Cam Reed, one of their prospects, after the Memorial Cup game the other night.
Yep.
Guess he had 1 goal, 3 assists in a pretty good game. So
Yep.
Trotz was there. So he's still kind of working. And I guess they had Jeff Kelty and is it Tom Nolan, one of their other scouts, still doing some pressers pre-draft last week or a week or two ago. So they still have people putting in the midnight oil, still working, still prepping for the draft. So maybe it's not as dire as we think.
I know Predators fans are sick of it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Alex Doherty from the Tennessean will be with us coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. We head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Alex Doherty to the program from the Tennessean. Does an outstanding job covering the Nashville Predators. Alex, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Had a wonderful Memorial Day and back at the grind this week. Wondering if the Predators are going to hire a GM or not.
That's I think the question that we're all wondering at this point. So Alex, some noise over the weekend that the Predators potentially could be interested in speaking with Chris McFarland, who is the general manager of the Colorado Avalanche. We just played on the show some comments that Elliot Friedman had about that. And look, he's the GM of the Avs. We know that the power structure in place there. You got Joe Sakic involved as the president of hockey operations as well. McFarland's got another year left on his contract. It's another Central Division team. I mean, it seems to me like that would be unlikely unless it's just I don't know, it's a huge sort of promotion and the Avs are okay with it, I guess. I don't know what's going to end up happening there. What do you make of the idea of Chris McFarland being somebody that the Predators potentially interested in speaking with about their GM position?
Yeah, so when you hear the rumors about a lot of the people that have come up in this conversation for the Predators GM job, a lot of them, immediately make sense. When you heard about them being interested in Brett Peterson from the Panthers, Tom Fitzgerald from the Devils, when you heard there was rumors of, maybe Mark Bergevin wanting to get back into it, or Darren York from Carolina, like all of these are from both sides, from the candidate and from the Predator side. It all made sense. Like the minute that I heard about this Chris McFarland thing, none of it made sense to me from the candidate side and from the Predator side. And the Predator side maybe less so, but so I guess let me mention that first. I don't understand why the Predators would want to set up their hockey ops this way, to go the VP of hockey operations or president of hockey operations with a GM to make it more confusing on who is in charge, to make it to provide more layers of passing the buck. Is what I would call it. Like when something doesn't work, who's in charge and who gets fired and who's responsible. For all their faults, the Predators have had a very easy to identify who is in charge, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's pretty clear who's making decisions. I mean, for a long time it was David Boyle, then it was Barry Trotz, and that's how it's gone. So I don't really understand why they would want to do that. But from the McFarland side, like this never made sense to me. I mean, I guess it still could happen. But even going from general manager to VP of hockey operations technically is a step up, but considering where he would be leaving and where he'd be going, it certainly doesn't feel like it. And then we find out that he's still under contract for a year. So it's like he would have to break his contract. To do this, it just, none of it really made sense. I mean, I guess, I'll do my work and prepare as if maybe it could happen, but I'm not expecting this to be a real thing at this point.
So let me ask you a follow-up to that then. They're clearly waiting to talk to somebody, right? I mean, whether it's him, whether it's
right,
Darren, they're waiting to talk to somebody here because
yeah.
If not, I mean, you would have just made a hire at this point. So
right.
What happens if they get through all of this and let's say McFarland's their target and it doesn't work out and then they circle back? I mean, as I laid out earlier, I mean, there's nobody else competing with them right now. Toronto's hired their GM. And Vancouver's made their hire. So if you're the Predators, I mean, you could wait as long as you want to at this point. But what does it tell you if they circle back after? I mean, I have to read it this way, Alex. Clearly, they've talked with a lot of people, and nobody has made it where it's like, golly, we got to hire that guy. Like, we got to hire him right now. Otherwise, they would have hired him at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there's something in their process involving Bill Haslam and maybe Nick Saban and maybe the other people that are involved here that is just so unconventional. Like they are not telling anybody, yes, you're in, no, you're not. Like unless they are just compiling a list of 10 guys that they know they want to circle back to, and they're just waiting to get that 10th guy, and Chris McFarland's that 10th guy. And then they're going to go back and say, you know what, out of all this, we like Tom Fitzgerald the best. So they could just be doing it very unconventional way. But yeah, you're right. Like there clearly there has been nobody that has wowed them so much that they have to hire them, like on the spot. And I still think okay. So the Darren York thing, when that came out, was kind of interesting because that was the I mean, that was a couple weeks ago now, but if I remember, there was a report like, oh, well, there's a guy whose team is still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's in the Eastern Conference, and it was like very, very clearly this guy. And I mean, I looked into it, and I think he was definitely interviewed. I think it was a while ago, and I don't think he is in the top. He's not like about to take the job, but I think he still could be considered. So let's say it happens like this, but Colorado gets eliminated tomorrow night, shockingly, swept by Vegas, right? Or is that tonight? No, that's tonight. That's right. Say they get swept, and then tomorrow they interview Chris McFarland, and he's one of the 6, 7, 8 guys, and the interview goes a certain way, and then they still think, you know what, we still like this other guy. That could be how it goes. I mean, they could be approaching this from just a very slow pace, since they know they have Barry Trotz already still here, and they know they have him through June 30th. They can take their time, right? Whatever this new general manager does is probably not going to happen until July 1 anyways. They don't need to, they've got their draft stuff already kind of covered. They know how they're going to approach that. You would like the new person to be at least involved in who they draft number 10 overall, but that's not going to make the whole career of this guy. There's bigger decisions to make with this roster. If they're slow playing it and just trying to find the right person, I can't fault them for that. But all of the report, what it does is it creates all of this rumor and speculation about who could be left and who are they going to be talking to. Are they going to talk to Kelly McCrimmon with Vegas? Are they going to try to talk to someone else from like the Eric Tulsky thing was the same thing with Chris McFarland. That never made sense to me. Why in the world would Eric Tulsky leave Carolina to go to Nashville? Well, okay, if it's for this VP of hockey operations, okay, but the guy has worked his way up to being general manager and now has a pretty dang good team and has a really good setup and knows what he's doing. Why would he leave? It's just none of it really made sense to me.
All right, so I'm going to go a little bit off the wall with this last one, and something you're probably not prepared for, but that's okay. We're going to get through it together. All right. So let's put the general manager search aside for a minute. They're going to hire somebody here at some point, right? And at some point, they're going to make a hire here. And if things go according to Barry Trotz's plan over the next couple of years, you're going to start to see, your Brady Martins and your Tanner Molendykes and, eventually your Igor Surins, like those type of players step in, and you're going to start to see this team, if it goes to their plan, grow with a young core and eventually get to a spot where you're hoping to be in contention. So you're the next general manager coming in. How much do you think will they start to put their eye, along with several other teams around this league, on Connor McDavid and what's happening in Edmonton? Because it feels like if Edmonton doesn't improve dramatically next year, he's got 2 years left on his contract, things could get very interesting on the McDavid front. And my argument is, if you're the Predators, if you're a lot of these teams, you better start looking at that and preparing for that now, because there's a lot to sell if you're the Predators, if things go the way that they hope it's going to go over the next couple of years. So am I too crazy to already be thinking about Connor McDavid 2 years out?
No. In fact, I would say you put the pressure on as soon as you can, on not only on McDavid, but also on the Austin Matthews situation in Toronto. Maybe you put the pressure on with the Jason Robertson thing with Dallas. I think I wrote about this at the Tennessean, some pretty bold things that they could do, whoever this is, right off the bat to flip the script on this roster. I've always thought, for the last 5 years or so, that the Florida Panthers model should be what the Predators should do. And that is, yes, you're going to need some high draft picks that hit, but you can rearrange your roster. You can rebuild your roster through trades and through harsh negotiation with other GMs to take advantage of situations like what they did with Matthew Tkachuk and with Sam Bennett and the signings that they made and trading to get Sergei Bobrovsky and all that. Like, I think that's the model, right? And so, like, whether it's a trade with the McDavid situation or if you just wait him out and see if you can get him in free agency, that would be less desirable to me. I think you try to trade. Austin Matthews maybe less so, because I'm just like, I'm not as sure that Austin Matthews is the game breaker that he once was. I mean, he had a bad year last year, but he's still great, right? I'm all for it, Robbie. I think going after those big players to transform, and you're not getting Steven Stamkos at age 35. You're getting Connor McDavid at age, what is he, 29, 30? Go get a young player that is still impactful that you can take advantage of now. Flip the script like Florida did, and see what happens. I've never been a tank or bust kind of guy that feels that you got to go get the number 1 overall pick in order to transform your team. That is obviously, excuse me, that's obviously a path that works for a lot of teams. I just think like there's too much luck involved. You don't know if you're going to get the right guy at the right time, and if the lottery is going to fall your way. Yeah, go after McDavid. Let's do it. Let's bring him here.
All right, so you heard it here first. Predators need to go after Connor McDavid. So I'm just trying to make that as clear as possible. I was thinking about it, Alex. It's like in some ways it's kind of similar to, and I think a lot of NHL teams are going to be having an eye on this. Like it's kind of similar to like the summer that LeBron was becoming a free agent back in 2010, and the Heat got him. It was like, okay, it's not like they're all coming together at the same time here, but obviously, like you gotta, if you're the Predators, if you're a lot of these teams around the league, you're having one eye on this McDavid situation for sure. Like I think you'd be insane not to.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, maybe the better equivalent would be Macklin Celebrini, right?
Yeah.
What if San Jose gets into a situation where they're I don't know their ownership situation, but they say, well, we can't shell out $20 million a year for this guy. Well, there you go. Bring Macklin Celebrini to Nashville. How about that?
There we go. Let's just keep adding to the list. 615-737-1025. We'll take
Let's
your thoughts
see.
on Alex.
Yeah, so
Alex Doherty declaring.
We've built a team with Connor McDavid, Macklin Celebrini, Steven Stamkos. Who else can we add to the list here?
Salary cap's going up. We'll see. Salary cap is going up. Alex, great stuff, buddy. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
We'll take your thoughts on Connor McDavid to the Nashville Predators that we just threw out there. In all seriousness, we are going to get into that a little bit later this week. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
I think it's the root cause of a lot of problems we got here in this country, Joe.
First of all, congratulations on a great attempt at a chat and cut. Really good.
It should be legal to open hand slap people who purposely cut in line.
You can run it every snap or you can throw it every snap.
Of course he is. It's like Joe Milton.
99 times out of 100, that's going to work. Unfortunately, I happen to be on the line. So
what are you doing? Do you not see this line here? This probably needs to be a Creed day.
The oohs and the ahs from some of you guys, the cooing. Go, go, gaga.
Fat fingers. What does that mean?
No, you're not sorry. You're sorry that you got called out on it.
In what ways has he been a great addition?
Who's got the next question, Robby?
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I just saw my friend.
yeah, I know a chat and cut when I see it.
Okay.
Do you know her at all?
And quite frankly, I've had enough of it, and I'm going to snap at some point. It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on the program. Brought to you by Rapid Response Generators. Power when it matters most. And served by the Wine Cellar in Hendersonville. Ian, I have thoughts today. And I want to speak to our friends that are fans of the New York Jets, okay? Just for a second.
Okay, that would include my dad.
I've seen a lot of this online. And it to some degree, I understand it. To another degree, I look at it and I say, well, that's a whole lot of arrogance from an organization that is one of the worst in the history of sports, in my opinion. So, as we know, the Robert Saleh era here in Nashville will begin with him taking on his former team in the New York Jets. And we've talked about that game. Like, the Jets have been terrible for basically like 15 straight years at this point. The Titans have been terrible the last 3 years. It's a game early in the season that both fan bases are going to look at and say, you know what? You better win that game. And, from the Jets standpoint, you got Aaron Glenn as the head coach. It did not go well for Aaron Glenn last year. We've talked about still the most amazing stat, I think, in the history of sports, that they went through an entire season last year and didn't intercept a single pass, which is just unbelievable that happened. But we all know that Aaron Glenn walking into this year is a guy that if it doesn't go well for them early on, he is very quickly going to be on the hot seat heading into next season. So I understand that in the backdrop of this. I understand that if you're a Jets fan, you look at it and you say, okay, well, the Titans were 3-14 last year. They've been bad the last few years. So maybe a chance here to start things off on the road and get a win. But the amount of Jets fans that I've seen that are just like, oh, yes, it's the Titans and Robert Saleh in week 1. Chalk up a win. Or if they lose to the Tennessee Titans, they need to fire Aaron Glenn immediately. It's like, you guys are the New York Jets. Do we not understand this? Like, you guys are the worst organization in the NFL. And you're sitting here with like some, the Titans. Thank God we're starting the season with the Tennessee Titans. Well, you know what Titans fans are saying right now? Oh, good. We get to start the season with the New York Jets at home. Like some of the and I understand the Jets, Ian, have an enormous fan base. It's a New York market, all those things. So pretty much all over the map, you're going to see, regardless of what the topic is, different opinions on issues when it comes to the New York Jets. But I've seen so many Jets fans that are just like, yes, 1-0. We can just go ahead and pencil it in, baby. 1-0 to start. And I'm like, good Lord, guys. How long have you guys been Jets fans? You're going to sit here and think that you've got that game won with Aaron Glenn as your head coach just because it's Robert Saleh that you're going up against in week 1? Oh, my goodness. Like, I would have thought the last 15 years would have beaten the arrogance out of some of these Jets fans. But Ian, apparently not, man. Apparently we don't know. Like, the Titans are just 0-1 immediately. Start because the Jets are on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that's New York arrogance, I guess, for you to a degree. And when you've been down, like the Jets have been down, I guess you look for any sliver of hope. And their sliver of hope is week 1 against the Titans.
Are the Jets going to win by 14 or 21 in that game? It's like, good grief, man. Geno Smith's your quarterback.
That's the thing about the Jets right now. Their roster is not very good still. Not good at all. Their quarterback, they were going back to Geno. And Glenn was
35 years old, who threw, let's see here.
He was not
interceptions
good last
he
year.
threw last year.
20 something.
He had like $1 billion in the first 5 weeks. He threw 17 picks in 15 games last year.
No, not quite 20, but it felt like it. Yeah, I wonder if that has to do with more of the Jets or more of the Titans. I guess this was just because the Titans, they expect them to win the first game.
Well, look, it's pretty clear that Jets fans feel like Robert Saleh is just a total
stinky.
moron. Yeah. But it's like, okay, well, that you can feel that way. And I have no idea. Maybe he is. Like, maybe we get to the head coaching part of this, and it's pretty clear that he's just not cut out to be a head coach. I'm leaving the door open for that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But you have Aaron Glenn as your head coach, who was an absolute disaster last year.
Not good.
I understand it's a big fan base, and you're going to run into this anywhere. Because look, there's some Titans fans that think they're going like 14-3 this year. So I get that. Like, you're gonna run into some disillusioned folks wherever you go. But the amount of like, oh yes, thank God, finally off to a good start. It's like, really? You guys are just chalking up a win on the road against the Titans.
Well, hey,
you're the New York Jets.
At least week 1 should be fun, regardless. Because either way, one team is going to absolutely have a meltdown after the first week, whether that's the Jets or the Titans. Whichever team loses, their fan base is going to go ballistic after the first week. And so I guess if you're in the NFL, that's kind of what you sign up for. Week 1, season on the line already. Jets, Titans.
I mean, I'm sure.
Here's the season breaker right here.
I'm sure the rest of the league is just teeming with anticipation over this matchup here. I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was reading. I was like, really? So Jets fans are this confident about anything, right? Like
that is a little bit surprising.
How are you this confident about anything?
I guess
if you're a New York Jets fan?
I guess that's why they still have all these fans after all these years and after all this losing. People still follow them, and so I guess there's something silly going on up there. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a fair rant.
I mean, in some ways, I respect it. In some ways, I really do. Like, you've been beaten down to a pulp, and you're still like, oh, yeah.
We got this.
Saleh in week 1. Chalk up a W.
Yeah, they must really think pretty badly of Saleh, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
In his situation there. We did talk about the I guess you weren't here on Friday when we talked about Joe and Paul, and we talked about our seed oils and Saleh and his comments, how that got some good run. So, hey, if you're the head coach of the football team and you're worried about seed oils as opposed to who's your starting offensive line, we'll have to see here.
That was a little Butch Jones. 615-737-1025.
I saw some of that. Like, we can start talking about the locker rooms and how great the locker rooms are. Perhaps our weight training program is really great here.
Sure.
Maybe our facilities are super nice, trying to get some extra stuff here. Are we talking about things when you're the Titans about things that don't really matter because there's nothing good to say?
Yeah, I guess so.
There's definitely some heat about that.
Nick Suss from the Tennessean will be with us. Coming up next, we'll get his thoughts on all things Tennessee Titans. Adam Kimmelman coming up at 8:30 from NHL.com. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, talking some Titans. And to help us do that, we head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Nick Suss to the program, who does a great job covering the Titans for the Tennessean. Nick, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Nick, let's start on the Cam Ward front here. Obviously, from all indications, the shoulder looks like it's going pretty well for him this offseason. He's throwing, he's participating, he's lost some weight. What do you make of what Cam Ward has done physically this offseason, and how big a deal is it in your mind that at this point of the offseason, he's ready and he's all systems go out there, at least it seems to be?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't want to make too much of quarterback throws well in May. Like, I'm not going to lean too hard, but anytime your quarterback isn't hurt, that's good. Like, it's oversimplifying, but the more time that he has to hone his craft, especially with a new scheme, especially with a new set of coaches, especially with new receivers to get acclimated with, all of this can only be good. There's no bad scenario where getting reps this time of year is going to make things worse for him. So this was the number one checkbox that everybody was kind of holding their breath about. And now we can kind of move on and talk about the nitty gritty rather than second guessing every arm slot and every throw and every wobble. I mean, it looks like he's throwing the ball the way Cam Ward throws the ball. And if that's the top qualifier, good start.
Well, good start on that front. Have you been able to get any sort of a sense to this point on kind of the partnership with him and Brian Dable, and maybe how that will look different than maybe what Cam Ward had in year one under Callahan and Mike McCoy?
I thought it was pretty telling that when Cam was asked about the game slowing down for him, and when Cam was asked about seeing the field differently, his answer kind of came down to, no, it's not slowing down. The plays are speeding up. And that to me sounded like an offense that is less reliant on playing within the system, playing within the confines of the scheme, taking what the defense gives you. A lot of the stuff we heard all the time from the Callahan, McCoy, Holtz, Hardegree era. And it's more about taking what you want to take from the defense, making the defense give you the look you want to see. And just being out there one day of practice last week, the plays, the schemes, the aerial attack did kind of feel rooted in that ideology. Less, survey the field, look for two or three things, and then when you notice what the defense has given you, take advantage of it. And more, this play is designed to find the open man exactly right here. We've designed it. If you have your eyes in the right place, you're going to find an open man. Trust that it's going to work. Trust your arm. Make the throw. That is definitely more of what I would call college-style quarterback play, maybe air raid style quarterback play of trust your first read. It's going to be there. We have a better plan than the defense does. And I kind of like that for a young quarterback who is still learning to play the game in the traditional pro style way, especially since the college style and the air raid style and all that has infiltrated the NFL in the last 15 years. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say that a lot of teams behave this way. I think it's good. I think it's a good partnership. I think that Cam likes the directness. I think that Cam likes the confidence. We know that Cam is a very confident, I'm better than the guy across from me type guy. And if that's the way Dable's play calling kind of reflects what he is as a coach, I think that kind of helps Cam because they do have that kinship of we both have immense faith in our ability to be better than the guys we're lined up across from.
So, it's one day of OTA practice from Carnell Tate, but obviously a lot of buzz about the day he had the other day, kind of building on that. I think one of the things that stands out the most to me about Tate in his college days was he caught everything, right? I mean, the catch radius was there, didn't drop a whole lot of passes. Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't drop a whole lot of passes. So it sounds simple on the surface of, hey, great, get some receivers in there that actually catch the ball. That's nice. But on the surface, when you're talking about helping your quarterback, How big a deal is, I guess, the catch radius in your mind that it appears Tate is going to have from the jump in the NFL?
It's a deal. I don't know if I want to call it a big deal. He's got really big hands. It's not just the long arms, which he's got long arms too, but I think he's like 95th percentile on hand size. Dude's just built like a guy who should be able to control the football when it gets into him. I think that's good. I think that's one of the reasons why he's such a valuable asset. But if you just shut your eyes and imagine an Ohio State wide receiver from these last 10 years of the receiver dynasty they've built, with the exception of Marvin Harrison Jr., almost every single player you're receiving or you're imagining is streaking down the middle of the field uncovered with no defenders 20 yards around him.
Yep.
And guys should be able to catch those balls. Like I don't remember too many times other than red zone plays where Carnell Tate had to show off catch radius and great hands, because Ohio State receivers are open a lot, and especially Ohio State receivers who play in the offense they did last year, where Carnell Tate really wasn't being covered or double covered by the best options like you would imagine a top 5 receiver would be. None of that's a knock on Carnell Tate. I think he's a good player. I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, the best case scenario does kind of fit him in that Stephon Diggs mold. He can do a lot of good things as wide receiver. I think he can be a number 1 for this team if he continues to develop. But look, you don't ever draft a receiver thinking, oh, I hope he only catches like 80% of the balls thrown his way. Like, if the ball hits your hands, you're supposed to catch it. As a receiver, I think that he should be able to do that. I think Wan'Dale Robinson should be able to do that. But I think it's a bigger deal that the Titans have receivers who can layer the defense and layer the passing attack underneath, intermediate, and deep. When last year, I don't really think they had a true effective underneath option the way they will with Wan'Dale. I'm not convinced they had a guy who was as good going over the middle as Tate will be. And I'm not convinced that they had a true deep threat last year after Ridley got hurt. And I think both Tate and Ridley can be those guys. And to me, that is the more significant upshot of rebuilding the receiver room than the simple answer of, oh, these guys can catch a little bit better.
How do you think they're going to deploy things at running back this year? Obviously, I mean, a lot of talk in the offseason about Jeremiah Love, and that doesn't end up happening. So you've got Pollard, you got Spears, and they take Nick Singleton in the 5th round. He's an intriguing guy to me. I'm interested to see how much he actually gets on the field carrying the ball this year. So how do you think that the Titans are going to utilize their running back room heading into this year?
One thing we do know is that Mike Borgonzi really favors the idea of getting young players reps early. And we saw that last year with the different regime. We don't know as declaratively how Saleh and Dable and the coaches feel about getting young players reps early. So kind of do have to wait and see a little bit how much that's forced when the season starts. That said, I really do like the way that Tyjae Spears fits in the system. And I liked what I saw from him when he was healthy and out at practice when I was out there last week. I still think Pollard's the feature back, and maybe that means a dwindling share of the carries. Maybe it's not a 80-20 like it felt like at times last year when Tyjae was battling injuries, and maybe Singleton takes a little bit more of a share of the first and second down carries if he can kind of start showing off that extreme athleticism, because the Titans don't have another athlete like him in the backfield. But the more I think about it and the more I kind of analyze what this team is going to need to do and what these players' strengths are, the more I keep going back to Spears and the more I keep thinking about how he can fit as a third down option and as a pass catching option in this offense in a way that I'm not convinced Pollard can at this stage in his career, and in a way that I haven't seen Singleton be better than Spears was at any phase of his college career. So I do think that Singleton's going to get involved, and I do like his future potential as a guy who maybe by 2027 could be competing for those 1A, 1B reps, but I would still think he's third in the pecking order right now, mostly because I think Tyjae is just the most effective player they have in those passing situations, in those third down situations.
All right, Nick, last thing for you here. What did it feel like watching Will Levis throw the ball again in a Titans uniform, which I wasn't convinced we were ever going to see again, but here we are.
Somehow the first word that came to mind was almost like a twisted sense of pride, of just like good for him. The guy bet on himself. The guy took a year off, and he came back and has clearly finally done something different. For all the talk of rewiring, and I don't want to hold that against him like we have for 2 years, and for all the talk of dating back to his Kentucky days of, oh, he's got to learn how to take some loft on the ball, and he's got to not just brute force his way through playing quarterback, and you can't be a comic book character, you got to be a quarterback, you got to have some finesse, all that stuff. It was one day, but it looked like he'd done all that stuff. And you give him credit, or I will give him credit, for at the very least finally seeming to make the adjustments that will be necessary for him to stick and survive in this league. He was putting touch on the ball. He was more accurate than I'd ever seen him. He looked like he was trying to win reps with wiliness rather than win reps with just being bigger, faster, stronger than the defenders he was going against. And let's face it, he was. If you're taking second team reps and training camp and OTAs when most of the starters on defense aren't even there, so the second team is probably third and fourth teamers, Will Levis should be able to beat up on these guys. But the fact that he was doing it not just by blistering the ball, but by actually layering the ball and showing some matter of finesse, I was proud to see that the coaching has gotten through to him, and that he is, at the very least, seeming to have made some of the necessary adjustments to be a quarterback in this league. Will it be with the Titans? I still think we all think no. But at the very least, this dude might be a trade chip if he continues to show out like this throughout camp.
We'll see how it goes. 615-737-1025. We'll react to what Nick had to say. Nick, thanks so much for your time on the program here today, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, of course, buddy.
Absolutely. Nick Suss from the Tennessean, our guest. We'll take your thoughts on what Nick had to say on the Titans. We got Adam Kimmelman coming up at 8:30 on the program from NHL.com. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, The Game. Robby and Rexrode, presented by Green Ventures Landscaping, outdoor patios, landscaping design, lawn maintenance, and more. Check them out at greenventureslandscaping.com. Our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios is where we're coming to you from. Home from the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Nick Suss for being with us in the last segment. Our football offseason coverage brought to you by Tennessee Brew Works. Locally brewed, community-driven. Tennessee Brew Works, the official craft beer of football offseason coverage on ESPN 102.5 The Game. You know, it's OTAs still going on for the Titans. I'm not making too much of football in May here. But, Ian, it is a big deal to me that Ward is out there and playing and throwing the ball and that the shoulder feels like it's behind him at this point because heading into the offseason, some of the big question was, all right, how much work is he going to actually be able to put in when he's spending, you know, all this time rehabbing his shoulder? Well, the fact that he's put in that time, he's rehabbed the shoulder, and he's on the field participating in the OTAs, which shows me that the Titans, I mean, if there is any sort of doubt, right? I mean, there's no point in putting him on the field.
He's not out there, right?
In May. So it shows me that they're very comfortable with where his shoulder is at this point in the offseason, and that's a very good thing. And then we can get into, you know, the weight loss stuff and
down
what
10
exactly
pounds,
that's going to look like. Said he's down 10 pounds, get a little leaner out there. So that part is interesting too, but it feels like physically he's in a pretty good spot, and you didn't know that was going to be the case given how late in the season the shoulder injury took place.
I mean, yeah, last game of the season, regular season, when you get a shoulder injury to a young quarterback, you don't really know how they're going to respond. You hope they respond 100%, but you don't know for sure. And that the fact that it's May and he's out there making some throws, getting some chemistry with Tate early on, I think it's a good thing. Well, obviously it's a good thing. And that does mean good things for his rehab process for sure. And I guess how everything went down, how he's feeling, the fact that he's got no limitations, he can go out there and throw right now in May, sets up for a good offseason with the new staff, with Dable, getting the new system in control, getting the new, you know, feel for Wan'Dale Robinson and Carnell Tate, and I guess Bellinger and whoever else you want to throw out there. That's definitely a positive. If he's missing time because he's not 100% with his shoulder, what is that? You know, then you start creeping into training camp. Well, it doesn't necessarily creep that way, but your mind starts to think, okay, what is he going to be for training camp if he's not 100% right now for OTAs? And does that put them behind? And, you know, that has an effect on your start of the season. We talked about it earlier in the Rob rant. The Jets, week 1, a winnable game. And, you know, if Ward's not out there throwing right now, that definitely puts a damper on that.
Well, for sure. And also, like, now that he's on the field and, you know, you're Dable, you're getting a chance to watch him. And it's one thing to look at the tape, right? Like, obviously, I mean, Dable studied him in the draft process. And then you have an entire year of NFL tape to go through with the Titans. So you've got an idea of what you're looking at, what you're working with heading into the process. But now that he's out there on the practice field and you're getting to watch it and you're getting to work with him directly, if you're Dable, that's a big deal. Like, to me, the more time on the field leading up to the regular season that those two specifically can get together, that's a big deal. Because look, there are going to be things, I think, mechanically that he's going to have to fix. And I feel good about Dable kind of leading that, right? Like, he's the one that's worked with a lot of quarterbacks, had a lot of success working with quarterbacks. And, you know, I know when he first got here, he didn't think that the mechanics, at least in the press conference setting, were a huge deal. But the accuracy is, right? Like, he's got to get better with the accuracy. And, like, the fact that they're working together in May and that you can start to work through some of that stuff, hopefully to the point by the time camp gets around and the regular season takes place in September, some of the adjustments that you're making start to become second nature, and you're not really thinking about it all that much. If you're Cam Ward when you're out there, that is a really good thing. I'm also intrigued by how effective they're going to be at what Suss threw out there of layering the way that they attack defenses with the different skill sets that they've got at wide receiver. Like Tate,
the addition of Tate helps that.
It helps it a lot, or at least it should. And you feel good about his ability to go deep. It's what he did in college. Now, can you do it at the NFL? I do think he's got the ability to move around a little bit, to go over the middle. I mean, he's a good sized guy. I mean, the biggest question in all that when it comes to, and I think in some ways even bigger than Tate, because I think there's a baseline of what you think Tate can be when you draft him where they drafted him. But like, what's Ridley? Like, is Ridley still a guy at his age coming off the injury that actually is a deep threat? Or does that start to fade this year, right? Like when he's on the field, is he a step or two slower? Does he have that same burst coming off the injury and being 32?
Yeah.
Like, is
That's
that
a good
still
question.
there?
It's a good question. And I think Ridley, if he is, still a top-ish level wide receiver, low end 1, high end 2, that could really make the wide receiver core dynamic. And you throw in DK towards the end of the season, Jim DK, I thought really showed improvement as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Early on under Callahan, it was these constant bubble screens,
which never worked
for him. And I understand that because he was a good returner and getting the ball in his hands seemed effective, kind of see what he could do, run after the catch. But as the season progressed, DK was taking more shots downfield, or he was getting open more downfield, and he was making some deeper catches, and Ward was finding him. So I think if you can throw in DK as a field stretcher, you can throw in Ridley as a little bit of a field stretcher, moving those guys around. Tate can play inside and outside. And then you have Robinson, who's mostly going to be inside, but showed last year he can play outside when needed with the injury to Malik Neighbors with the Giants. And Robinson was able to transition outside and put up over 100 catches. I think it has the potential for a well-rounded wide receiver group. And if Ridley can still be that, top wide receiver too, I think they could have some dynamic options there. And it does feel like it's pretty well-rounded as far as skill sets, type of players.
Well, and it feels like, and we'll see how it plays out, but for the first time in a while that they're relatively deep there, right? Like if Io Manor is your fifth guy, I feel pretty good about that. Like,
that's pretty good.
I don't think Alec Io Manor is ever going to turn into some, stud wide receiver, but he showed enough to me last year that he could play in the NFL, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's
definitely a rotational guy.
And look, the Titans have definitely gone, they've had some years around here lately where you look at like their fourth or fifth wide receiver and you're like, man, I don't even know if that guy's an NFL player, right? I mean, so if it plays out where
Racey McMath making the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it plays out where like Io Manor ends up being your fifth guy, that's pretty good, right? Like if that's the way that it plays out. So I think for the first time in a while, at least on paper, I think you're feeling decent about the depth in the wide receiver room.
I would agree, and especially like you said, if Ridley can really keep it going, maybe get some chemistry here with Ward this offseason, maybe Ridley fits the offense well. Sounds like under Dable, the choice option routes, the choice routes for wide receivers are going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And it is going to be, how can Ward kind of read the receiver? I think the chemistry with the receivers is going to be important, because it is going to be a lot of, hey, what is the wide receiver seeing, what the defense is doing, and how are they going to adjust their route on the fly, and how that can mesh with Ward in real time. And it might take a little bit of a few games kind of to get on the same page if it's going to be a lot different as far as the option routes go. Hopefully it doesn't lead to too much confusion and someone goes the complete wrong way, because I feel like that could lead to Jarvis Brownlee pick 6 week 1.
Yeah.
We're just putting that out in the ether right now, so everyone's just prepared for it. So when it happens, we don't freak out. So hopefully that won't cause extra, when things go bad, it goes real bad.
Yep.
But I think it's important that Ward's on the field now so they can work on that, and Dable's on the field now getting these OTAs, getting the play call in from Dable. How's that sound? How does that look different? How does that feel? So I think there's cautious optimism with the offense, I'd say.
We will be joined by Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com. Coming up next, we'll get into the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NHL draft, which is coming up for the Nashville Predators as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar this morning here in Nashville, Tennessee, talking some hockey. And to help us do that, we head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Adam Kimmelman to the program from NHL.com. Adam, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying this hockey weather, this hockey time of year. It's the best time of year.
I totally agree. It is the best time of year. The playoffs are basically my lifeblood. Love it. Love watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let's start there. Obviously, I mean, having no Cale Makar in the first two games, and then if you watched him in game three, he's clearly not himself. And then you factor in McKinnon getting hurt in game three as well. It's really bad injury luck right now going on for the Colorado Avalanche. So understanding that in the backdrop, it's still stunning to me that they're down 0-3 in this series to Vegas and on the verge of being swept. What do you make of not only that storyline from Colorado, Adam, but the fact that Vegas has basically just turned everything around under Torts and looked like an absolute machine that's on the doorstep of yet another trip to the Stanley Cup final?
Well, I think this is always what this Vegas team could be, right? They're only a couple of years removed from being, Stanley Cup champion. They have a lot of the core guys still in place there. And I think a lot of times it's not really so much the coaching change or some sort of brand new message that Torts is giving that Bruce Cassidy was not. It's just, a different voice makes a different noise, leads to a different place. I think there's also some pride over getting a good coach fired that sort of makes you reevaluate what you're doing. And it got these guys flowing the way they needed to be flowing. And I think, but all that being said, to see that they're up 3-0 in the series is pretty stunning. The one place that I think Vegas had a clear advantage is in goal. And I think you're really seeing that right now. Scott Wedgewood and Mackenzie Blackwood had nice seasons for the Avalanche, but it's a far cry from a nice regular season to trust them in the playoffs. And I think what you're seeing now is, Vegas's advantage really step into the forefront because Carter Hart has proven in the past that he can be a big-time goalie. I remember watching him in the playoffs when he was with the Philadelphia Flyers in 2020, basically carry a team single-handedly to Game 7 of the second round without a lot of support behind him. Now he's more experienced. He's got a better team around him now than he did then. And what you're seeing is their clear advantage in goal is really, to me, making the difference in this series.
Yeah, for sure. And, we'll see if Colorado could stay alive coming up in game 4. But it just feels like I watched McKinnon after he got the injury, and he basically turned into a power play player at that point. He took the puck in the middle of the ice at one point. And, Adam, you've watched this 1,000 times just like I have. I mean, usually when McKinnon gets the puck in the middle of the ice, nobody's catching him. And then when two players caught him from behind, you could see the look on his face. Like there's just no burst there whatsoever. So, how much better is that going to get in a couple of days from game 3 to game 4? I don't know. But if they don't have Makar at 100% and McKinnon at 100%, it feels like you're up a creek without a paddle if you're the Avs at that point.
For sure. The mountain to climb gets even higher if you have your best two players are at significantly less than 100%, not knowing what the issue is with Makar. It's obvious what's going on with McKinnon. We all saw him take that shot off the knee above the shin pad in one of the few places where these guys really don't have bulletproof armor. Again, I don't know how quickly bruises heal. I think Scott Wedgewood said it best, if he's got a pulse, he's going to play. How much he plays, what kind of condition he's in to play remains to be seen, but I have a really hard time envisioning Nathan McKinnon missing this game. I think he's going to do whatever he has to do to get in the lineup and to be as effective a player as he can possibly be with whatever bruise, pain he's dealing with.
So, Adam, on the flip side of things in the East, you've got Carolina up 2-1 against Montreal. And Carolina has been basically a perennial playoff contender at this point. And right around the time they get to the conference finals, it seems like it starts to fall apart on them a little bit. And this year, it feels different, right? Like it feels like this might be the year where they finally push through, get to the Cup final. What do you think it is about this version of the Hurricanes that's maybe different from years past?
Well, I think you see with the addition, especially of Nikolai Ehlers, they have that a guy who they can really count on in a big spot to be a go-to scorer in a way that they've tried in the past. They tried with Jake Gensel. They tried with Mikko Rantanen, and it didn't really click the way they needed it to click. With Ehlers, it looks like he plays a style conducive to producing in that Rod Brind'Amour Hurricanes game plan where it's that high-tempo attack and then being able to score off the rush consistently. Ehlers has shown he's been able to do that. I think that gives him a very much of a different dimension. Then you add in Keandre Miller, who I think's had a great postseason. Again, with the skating, with the way he's able to get the puck up and down the ice, I think they're in good shape, but I think they need to find something more offensively. You can't, like this Carolina team, the first 8 games of the playoffs, there was some real offensive cohesion there that you really haven't seen against Montreal, and they need to score more than 2 goals in regulation. I think they scored more than 3 goals without needing overtime twice. That's not going to win games at this level. So whether it's Ehlers or anyone else, somebody's got to step up and put some crooked numbers on the scoreboard within the 60 minutes, not just wait and scratch and claw and hold on and hope for that goal in overtime to get you over the top. They're a much more offensively capable team than they've shown, I believe. I think they just need to get to that more consistently.
Adam Kimmelman with us here on the program. So, Adam, it was about this time last year. You were on our show. We were talking with you. The Predators were picking at number 5, and we were going through, the Porter Martones of the world and James Hagens and Brady Martin. And Martin, obviously, is who they end up picking at number 5. Fast forward to this year. They missed the playoffs for the second year in a row, third time in the last 4 years, and they're picking at number 10 this year. So, there are a few guys that could be there at number 10, whether that's, Tynan Lawrence, whether that's Gustafsson on D. I mean, you can pick through a handful of guys that could be there. But what do you make of kind of where the Predators sit in the NHL draft coming up at that 10th spot?
Well, I think, you look at the top of the draft, there's really 7 guys that have kind of separated themselves a little bit from the group there. The 2 forwards, McKenna and Stenberg, and then the 5 defensemen. But behind that, there's a really strong group of players. I know Nashville's taken centers, the last couple of years of the draft, but you look at guys like you mentioned, Tynan Lawrence, Viggo Bjork, who plays for Djurgården in Sweden. He's a really interesting player. He might be, between he and Caleb Malhotra, they might be the 2 best centers in this year's draft. But with Viggo, not a lot of size there. I believe he's about 5'10" and 175 pounds, but he's got that dog on a bone mentality that really kind of makes me think he's going to be a really good player. He's playing on the top line for Sweden at the World Championship now, so fans can tune in and watch that on NHL Network as we move forward here, through the rest of the month of May. He's just got that toughness, that innate skill. He played really well in the Swedish Hockey League with and against older and developed men. I think if he's a guy who's sitting there at number 10, you got to really think about if one of those skilled defensemen, a guy like a Keaton Verhoff or somebody like Daxon Rudolph kind of falls a little bit, I think, that's also a guy you could target because, Nashville, I know they have Tanner Mollendijk coming, but finding another high-skill, high-end young defenseman would be a great option at number 10.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing for you, Adam, what do you make of Gavin McKenna in terms of the player, NHL player that you think he's going to turn into?
I think he's going to be a fantastic NHL player. I think if you look at, to me, the model is Jack Hughes, right? They're sort of built physically the same way, different positions, obviously. But if you watch, Jack Hughes needed a year to sort of adjust to the NHL, adjust to how teams are going to play him physically, get bigger, get stronger. And in his 3rd year, he was a 90-point guy, and he's become an elite player in the NHL. I think Gavin McKenna could follow that same path where, he needs a little bit of time to continue to get bigger, to continue to get stronger, to adjust to the NHL pace, the same way he needed half a season to get used to the pace of NCAA hockey moving up from the Western Hockey League. So I can see Gavin McKenna as an 18-year-old, if he's in the NHL, maybe not having the blow you out of your seat season as a rookie. But by the time he's 20, 21 years old, I think you're looking at an elite player in the National Hockey League.
Going to be fascinating to watch how that all comes together. Presumably in Toronto. We'll see if he ends up being the number one pick. I will be stunned if he's not. Adam, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Anytime, Robbie.
Absolutely. Adam Kimmelman, our guest here on the program, does a great job for NHL.com, draft expert for NHL.com as well. So appreciate Adam taking time to be with us on the program today. We'll come back. We'll react to what Adam had to say, wrap up the show. Coming up next, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. .1025 The Game is your racing station. This weekend, catch all the action as NASCAR comes to the Nashville Super Speedway on 102.5 The Game, presented by City Auto and Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery. Got the Allegiance 200 coming up at 6:30 on Friday, all leading up to the Cracker Barrel 400 on Sunday at 5 o'clock. So make sure that you're tuned in for that. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025, our phone number. Also check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. Appreciate Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com for being with us in the last segment. Going to be some different options for the Predators there at number 10. We'll get more in depth into those options as the NHL draft gets closer here. But Ian, I mean, we began the show. Your New York Knicks have punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. They're awaiting the winner of San Antonio and Oklahoma City, who has a pivotal Game 5 coming up. That series tied up at 2. But how are we feeling with the New York Knicks back in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999?
Yeah, feels like 99.
It does.
Not quite 98, but 99. Feeling okay. I mean, obviously, the path through the East, crazy how they've just kind of
mowed through it,
dominated. A little bit of a hiccup early on versus Atlanta, and then boom, off they went. Maybe that has something to do with their opponents. Like Cleveland did not show very well at all.
They totally quit
in this series.
Yeah.
And Cleveland building around James Harden as an offensive piece, just
good luck with that.
Terrible idea. I don't know whose idea that was. Like that was not smart. You know, it's going to be tough against the West, no doubt, because the Spurs and the Thunder are legit. I've had a lot of fun watching that series.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
I've been very intrigued by that one. It's been hard the basketball finals. Both of these, I guess, for me, I've watched more NBA this past 2 weeks than I've had probably in like the last 2 years combined. But the West has been really fun to watch. It's almost taking away some of my cup watching time, really. I've been trying to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I keep finding myself intrigued about the NBA, flipping back and forth, doing a lot more flipping this year than I used to. And so, I mean, the Knicks haven't lost a game since the end of April, I believe 32 days or something like that. They haven't lost. The highest points differential of any team, regular season or postseason, in their 11-game winning streak, plus 200 and something or whatever, the best number in the history of the league. They're playing very together, not selfish, working for each other, very team. Brunson's looking good. It's going to be a tough matchup in the West, but it's been fun to watch. That's for sure.
It's been fun to watch. And like you said, I mean, Cleveland just got absolutely smoked yesterday. I mean, they blew the 22-point lead, and it looked like it was all she wrote after that. And they just, even you go home and you got Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce out there in Game 3 trying to get them all fired up. Didn't work in Game 3. They just quit last night in Game 4 and got put down there. So good showing there from Cleveland there in Game 4, and a lot of pride that they took there in that series. But Knicks punched their ticket to the final. You know, Thunder dealing with some injuries here. We'll see if they can overcome that going back home in Game 5. But Wembanyama is just an absolute freak. Like, if you haven't watched him play, I don't know what you do with him. Like, I really don't.
Fun.
Like, it's the size. Like when you're 7'4" or whatever he is, like, you know, obviously that's tough to contend with. But when you also have the skill level that he's got combined with how big he is, I just don't really know what you do with that.
He'll pull up, drain a three.
Yeah, I just don't. You know, he played
cash one in from half court,
31 minutes in Game 4, 33 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. Like you said, hit that one from half court, and you're just like, okay, of course.
They looked the Spurs looked a little tired to me at the end of the of Game 2.
Yeah,
and it kind of carried over to Game 3, but that was not the case in Game 4. They were home, got the extra day, rest at home, came back. I mean, they dominated pretty much from the start. So they got a couple of good young players along with Wembanyama. My hope is, as a Knicks fan, the West will go 7 games,
wear each other out.
Both teams are banged up, dealing with injuries. Perhaps it goes another few. The Knicks will have the entire week to rest. That kind of bit them in the butt. Game 1 against the Cavs, they were able to respond. It looked like the layoff hurt them early on. The second half of the game, they were able to respond, obviously, with the big comeback in the fourth quarter. So hopefully that doesn't happen again if you're the Knicks. But yeah, it's been fun for sure.
Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Larry to the program. Larry, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good, Larry.
Listen, you talking about the race coming up, and I know you're a Cracker Barrel guy, just like myself. You know, got the Cracker Barrel 400 coming up. Now, Robby, Now, do they got you being the grand marshal of the race this weekend? I mean, if there was ever going to be a choice of grand marshals for the Cracker Barrel 400, it's got to be Robby.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. I have not been contacted yet, which I take as some form of disrespect. But I would agree. Like, if you're going to have somebody be the grand marshal of this race, I feel like I would fit those qualifications pretty nicely. I appreciate you pointing that out.
I got a question for you. I don't know what your to-go order is at the Cracker Barrel. Mine, I order off the breakfast menu. If it's 7 o'clock at night, I can always eat some biscuits and gravy and a side of bacon and some pancakes. I love the breakfast. What's your go-to at the Cracker Barrel?
Well, I appreciate the call there. It does change. I do, every now and then I do the breakfast as well for dinner. I've gotten into they got these grilled tenders, no free ads, but grilled tenders lately that I've gotten into with ranch on there. Good
okay.
Stuff. And then your vegetables. They got good vegetables there.
When I go to the barrel, it's pretty much breakfast.
Yeah.
No, regardless of the time of day.
Nobody's contacted me though for the race.
Yeah, they're running out of time.
Yeah, we're running out of time quickly.
Yeah, they need to get on that. As far as if there's any type of ambassador for that race, Robby would be top of the list.
I mean, you would think.
Yeah,
Joe, should be fun this week.
Joe could do some advertisements for gout. We could have Cracker Barrel surely offers a few things that are gout friendly.
Oh yeah.
They got some seafood on there
for sure.
They got some good fruit, some solid vegetables.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Yeah, stay away from maybe all the fried country gravy, and I don't know if they use seed oils there. But
we'll find Robert Saleh in there if they do.
So you have to watch out on the seed oils for the Titans. But hey, Cracker Barrel, and they want to sponsor a lunch. I'm down on it.
Yeah,
I'm down for it. Yeah.
All right. Does Colorado hold off elimination, or do they just get swept by Vegas, which would mean Vegas back to a Cup final for the third time since their existence in 2017?
I mean, even if they avoid the sweep, it's done, right? I mean, they're down 3-0.
I would assume so.
I think they kind of get swept. It feels like a Cavs thing. They might pull one out here because Vegas kind of lays a stinker, perhaps, and they go back to clinching Game 5. It'll be Game 4 or Game 5. We'll have to see the status of McKinnon. He's obviously banged up.
I think they're going to get maskared tonight.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think it's done.
Well, McCarr
he's banged up
still. He's like 60%. Like I watched him play in Game 3 and barely recognized.
You could tell that was like, hey, you need to show up in this game, otherwise the season's
over.
It's
over. Yeah.
And so he pushed through, and it didn't really work.
It's clearly like he's not impacting the game at all. And then McKinnon, he takes the shot above the knee. He can barely skate by the end of that game. It'll probably be better, I would assume, today, but he's probably not going to be full strength. And I think in their heart of hearts, they know that it's over.
Yep.
And that's always an interesting thing in Game 4. Like you could kind of see it on their face. So what it looks like we're trending toward is a Carolina Vegas Stanley Cup
which
final.
I think is fair. If you would have said at the beginning or some point in the season it'll be Carolina Vegas, I think we would all sign up for that.
Yes.
Both teams are good. Both teams are proven in the playoffs for the most part.
Be a lot of Carolina fans.
And so if that's true, including myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would be happy with that. I think that would be an entertaining Cup final.
I agree. I think that's what we're going to get. 615-737-1025, our phone number. That's going to do it for us today. Rexrode will be back on the program tomorrow. We'll have Kuharski with us as well, so looking forward to that. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 1025 The Game.